If you're a fan of id Softwares, you're probably familiar with their early history when the founding team worked under SoftDisk, a monthly Apple/PC magazine, or rather a subsection of it called The Gamer's Edge, where they churned out games to go with soft disks, well, disks. Titles like the Dangerous Dave series, Rescue Rover, the sort of prequel to the Commander Keen franchise by the name of Keen Dreams, and then the earlier FPS games, Hover Tank 3D and Catacomb 3D. This soft disk era in its history is well documented in the book by the name of Masters of Doom, and I really recommend it if you're a 90s games nut. But now let's take a look at Catacomb 3D. The setting is simple, but a game needs one after all. You're a wizard out to destroy an evil skeleton wizard, or a lich as we magically attuned have come to call them. And that's it really. So let's take a look at the rest of it. You step inside the dungeon armed only with your magic fireball spell, and you begin the tedious by today's standards quest in a recognizably FPS fashion. You shoot at anything that moves, collect keys to unlock routes to proceed to the next level. The UI lends you a hand by having your mug up there displaying the health status, and once you get wounded enough it's time to use a pickup by the name of a health potion. And there's also the compass to help you with navigation, and this quirky little meter in the form of a nuke, displaying the amount of time you've charged your shots. Let it reach its peak and it does roughly 3 to 5 times the damage of an ordinary projectile, as far as I can tell. But I mostly resort to tap shooting, as the swarms of enemies can get pretty hectic as time goes on. And if the going gets tough, the tough get going, and to that end you've also got the nuke and bolt spells, which are also collected as pickups. The nuke causes fully charged projectiles to fly in all directions around you. It's handy when you get piled on, and the bolt fires a stream of charged fireballs in a straight line. So yeah, there's a very minute amount of resource management. As for gameplay variety, let's start with the enemies. Well, for one, I like the designs. You've got goblins, trolls, wizards and demons, although I really feel like they're introduced a little too far apart from one another. Over the course of some 30-ish minutes I spent playing for the purposes of this recording, I only encountered 4 types. Understandably, however, considering the game's age and tech, the variety in actual gameplay elements isn't that big. Some of the enemies move faster or slower, take more or less hits to down them, and some of them have projectiles. On top of that, it's easy to get a little confounded, since there's this curious little thing where when an enemy gets close enough to you, it causes them effectively to turn invisible, as they seem to occupy the same spot as you. I don't know the details behind this, but it is noticeable, and it results in a lot more potions in my bloodstream than I'd like to admit. And strangely enough, this bug, although I hesitate to call it that, persists in the game's sequels, which we'll get into later. Then the level design, and it's actually pretty ambitious. Notice this little cool bar there. I love it. As you waddle around the maps, it displays a little title or a description concerning the area you're in, since admittedly the only differences in the looks of the levels are the different wall textures. It adds a nice bit of flair by turning the umpteenth stone wall into an inquisition chamber or a prison cell. But as for the actual layouts and tangible areas, it shuffles the deck now and then. There's the simple ramps through hallways to find keys for the other hallways you've encountered, but occasionally you get a hub type level with multiple paths to undertake before you find all the keys to proceed, and there's even a maze or two scattered throughout the course of the game. Hard to navigate, granted, without any sort of an automap, and the compass is small solace there as well. Honestly, the game gets a little spooky at times in that old DOS kind of way. The enemies have no sounds, and the only animation cycles they have is running at you and attacking. I know I was creeped out when I played this series as a kid. Another cool and easily overlooked feature as well is the scroll system, where you can find messages written down, sometimes for the sake of flavor and sometimes for tips and tricks, which does help with the kind of a rudimentary RPG feeling. This unassuming little addition is also present in the game's sequel, but surprisingly it wasn't used in any way in Wolfenstein 3D, but those are semantics for another day. What else is there really? As you can see, the gameplay gets a little samey fairly quickly. The maze-like design of the levels and the enemies that are introduced fairly far apart from one another, and it really isn't helped by the fact that they could only cram in one music track for the game, and the sound effects were relegated to the PC speaker. This jamming little ditty is of course the product of Robert Prince, who ended up composing the bulk of id's musical side of things. It does its job, but an 8-second loop stretched over the course of a video game can, and heck, I mean, it will get tedious no matter how good it is. The track was also used again in Commander Keen 3 for your useless bit of dust trivia. All in all, it's not a bad game in the slightest. It's ambitious for its time, uses a prototype of the Wolf 3D engine, and importantly for me personally, it spawned this oft-forgotten franchise, at least in its 3D FPS iteration, with a setting that I really enjoy. And I'll certainly try to conjure up a video on the episodic sequel trilogy at some point, but in essence it's the same as this one, only a little more polished and a little less obtuse in its level design, but in general an overall improvement on the formula that, once it was diluted a little and the goblins were turned into Nazis, blew up in the popularity spectrum and called to its already gibbed corpse the many aspiring imitators like Carrion. As for the Catacomb series itself, sadly it seems to have been doomed into obscurity behind the many secret and not so secret walls it so liberally uses throughout the game. So, I hope you became a positive mark on the viewer retention statistics, but whether you did or you didn't, thank you for watching, and remember to keep on keeping on. Oh yeah, this game also has the cool Bone Pong minigame. Hell yeah.